And so where do you get your first client from? It's one of those strange questions where I kind of think about it now as if you need to ask that question while you or after you've started your business, then you probably shouldn't have started it to begin with. You need to have that sort of thing mapped out. You need to have at least some sort of basic understanding of who am I going to speak to? Where am I going to get my clients from? If you haven't got that, then you're probably a little bit ahead of where you should be. You shouldn't have even started the business if you are asking yourself that question. So where did I get my first client from? I actually got my first client my first client was actually my sister. She wanted to be my first client. She asked if she could be my first client. And so I was more than happy to have her come on as my first mobile client that I sorted out her plan for her and away we went. But as far as clients outside of family and friends, let's say, for me, it was all about networking. At the beginning, there was a lot of networking that happened. I was a member at one stage of 3 or 4 different networking organizations at once, and it was just about getting my name out there a little bit. You look at, when you think of the telecommunications industry, you predominantly think of the 3 big companies, Telstra, Optus and Vodafone. And then, you've got a bunch of smaller ones underneath that come to mind, but nobody had any idea who Aria Telco Management was. They had absolutely no clue. And relative to the other companies, even today, 3 years in, people still have no idea who Aria Telco Management is. But for me, I wasn't worried so much about having any sort of national presence like these large companies. I never wanted to start a business because I thought it was going to make me millions of dollars and I was going to become the next Telstra or Optus. That was never even a consideration for me. So for me, my planning was around, I wanted businesses around Perth and even narrower than that. It was to start with specifically north of the river here in Perth that I was really targeting. They're the ones that I wanted to get my name out to. And I found that the networking organizations that I joined allowed me to do that very, very effectively. And I joined District 32 as a sponsor 4 months after starting the business. And the entire reason that I wanted to come on as a sponsor was, again, to get my name out there a little bit more, to get that branding. And they had, at that point, about 320, 330, I believe, members all around Perth. Now, they weren't all north of the river, but it gave me that little bit of exposure to be able to get in with a bunch of potential business clients that I was likely to not have found otherwise. So that was very, very powerful for me. So I think that's something that you really need to look at. Networking, some people say networking is not for everybody, and I think that's horseshit. I think networking is for everybody. You just have to find the network or the networking group that actually works for you, that suits you. There's a bunch of them around there. Go and have a look. For me, District 32 was amazing just because of the way that it's structured. I found that it offers a lot more support to their members than any of the other networking organizations that I'd been a part of previously. And that's what so attracted me to it to begin with. And that's why I've stayed with it, as long as I have, and will continue to. I mentioned this to the CEO a couple of weeks ago. I'll continue to stay with District 32 almost as long as they'll have me. Just because I believe in their business model. I love the way that they operate, and a lot of it does come down to the level of support that I received from them and that I've seen them give to so many of their other members around Perth in the last 3 years or so. So that's a big part of it, is I think networking. Find the networking group that will actually suit what you're going after. If you are selling products that you feel are going to benefit the fitness industry, go and find a fitness networking group, or go and, even if it's a Facebook group or something like that, that's still a form of networking. There's Facebook groups for almost every different little industry out there, or large industry. They have to be little industries, but find your network, find your group, and like a lot of people call it finding your tribe. It's the same sort of thing, right? It's find the group of people that you feel like you can work with, that are going to offer the value you're looking for, and more importantly, from my point of view, is find a group that you feel like you can offer value to, because that's the group that's actually going to allow you, especially if we're talking about getting clients on board, that's the group. If you can offer value into a specific group or network, they're the ones that are going to end up becoming your advocates and end up coming on as your clients. And the other thing that I did that I know is not very popular and most people shy away from it, they hate it, good old cold calling. Now, whether that's over the phone, which is essentially what I did a lot of when I started Aria, or it's going door to door, which is really how I started my career in telco, working for an Optus dealer in Melbourne and literally going door to door and getting told to fuck off 100 times in a row. It's actually the way to build the most resilience. And it's funny, I heard a story not that long ago, and they were talking about, it might have been a YouTube interview. I've got a feeling it was a YouTube interview that I was watching. And I can't remember who it was at the minute, but they basically said one of the best ways to build resilience and to stop getting upset by people telling you no is, and for a guy, I mean, it would work for, well, actually probably wouldn't work as well for a woman, but for a guy, the best way is to go to any shopping centre, go to Burke Street Mall in Melbourne, go to, any of the places that have got a lot of people, and just randomly walk up to 50 women and ask for their phone number. Just do it. Just try it. See how you go. And this is why I said it probably won't work as well for women as it does for men, because men are more likely to give over their phone number than women in a lot of circumstances. But, you will get used to rejection. So if you've got a fear of rejection, go and try it. It might sound a little bit strange, but go and try it. And I pretty well guarantee you by the end of that 50 people that you'll end up getting over your fear of rejection. Either that or you'll be in the fetal position in the corner or something. But it's one way or another, you're going to find out whether or not you can handle rejection. But look, for me, it wasn't to that extreme. It was cold calling, door knocking, especially at the start of the career, was quite literally door knocking, going door to door. And you will get clients out of doing it. You absolutely will get clients. As long as you know what you're talking about and you can actually present somewhat decent to those potential clients, you will end up getting clients out of it. Is it as effective as networking and building relationships in the long term? Absolutely not. It's not even close to as effective as that, which is why networking was my number one suggestion that I mentioned. But it will absolutely get you clients if you do it properly. But it's a numbers game. There'll be days where you'll knock on 100 doors and get absolute zero. There'll be days where you make 100 phone calls and you'll get absolutely zero. It happens. But at the same time, there'll be days when you make 20 phone calls before 10 o'clock in the morning and you've already secured 4 meetings. Like, it happens. So it's just a numbers game. You need to understand that if you're going to go down that path. But when it comes to actually getting your clients on board, that's what I did. I networked like hell. I still do a lot of networking. Even 3 years in, I'll do a minimum of 2 networking events a week, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, but a minimum of 2 per week, just to continue building that network. I'm always meeting new people, and there's even people that I've known out of, say, District 32 that I've known for nearly 3 years now, that we haven't done business. I'm not their client, they're not mine, but we're building relationships for the long term, to the point where I know that there's certain people in District 32 that I may never use, I may never require their service, but I can 100% refer to them if one of my clients or one of my contacts or somebody that I come across needs their service. As an example, I had one quite literally last Thursday. was at it was actually a District 32 event. I was at a District 32 event, and one of the members was talking about they were looking at potentially moving to a commercial property, and they had no idea where to start. They didn't know who to speak to. I immediately have one of my clients who's a commercial property real estate manager, and so I suggested she speak with him, and an email introduction later, and they're going to be meeting up for coffee this week to have a look at things. So it may have just resolved an issue for her. She was looking for a premises, and it may have gotten him a sale. And I personally don't get anything out of it financially, but I don't care about that at all. And that's one of the things that I've noticed. And look, I talk about going to networking events as a way to get clients. The strange thing about that is if you go to a networking event with the intention of walking into that room to get clients, you're less likely to get clients. It's one of those things. You need to approach networking events, and I've said this 100 times in networking events, and I've said it outside to just in regular conversations. My intention when I walk into a networking event is to build relationships. It's not to sell to everybody in the room. I worked for another telco company at one point in my career who put me into a BNI networking group. And I'm still, look, respect for BNI, they're massively successful at a global scale. And I still have a lot of time and respect and friendships, frankly, with a number of the members from that group. And I haven't been in that group for about 2.5 years or so. But they put me into this group, and I started with this company in September, I think it was. And they put me into the group in November. And by January, they wanted me to pull out of the group. And I fought with them to stay in it because I saw the value in that group at the point. And their reasoning for wanting me to pull out of the group was because I hadn't had enough business. I hadn't generated enough business from the group. And number one, it had been 2 months. And number two, it was over the Christmas period. So I don't know if they thought that there was going to be mobile services that I would be able to sell over Christmas or what have you, people giving away iPhones as presents and this and that. I don't know if that's what their expectation was, but the point is that they have a very, very short-term mentality. Networking is not a short-term game. If you want to be successful in networking and you're going to choose that as the path you want to go down like I did to grow your business, you need to understand that, yes, while 100% you will get clients, even in the short term, you can absolutely get clients. Don't go in there with the mentality of, I'm going to sign up everybody in the room, or I'm going to sign up 3 people in the room today. Go into it with the mentality of, I'm going to build relationships with 3 people in the room today. There's 3 specific people in this group of 30 that I want to start a conversation with, that I want to start the beginnings of a relationship with. And over time, you will build those relationships, and whether you do business with them in the short term, the long term, or never at all. Look, there's people that I will never do business with personally, ever. It's just not going to happen. But I know that both I've been able to provide them with value, and they've been able to provide me with value just through discussions that we've had. Not even the formal meetings, but just having a discussion about certain things that have happened in business, and they've said, oh, I've done blah, blah, blah in my business. And I'm thinking, shit, okay, that sounds good. Maybe I should try that. And I know that from the other side, because these are people that a lot of the time have been in business 10, 15, 20 years, and I'm still so new, especially back then, but I know that there were certain things that I would say that they'd go, oh shit, that sounds good. Maybe I should try that. And it was just because I had a fresh perspective on it. A lot of people, and I see it all the time, people that have been in business for a long period of time get stuck in their ways, and I use it in telco. I call it the lazy tax. You've been with the same phone company forever, and you just continue renewing your contract with them. And look, in some instances that works well, but I call it the lazy tax because a lot of the time you end up losing a lot of money if you don't just stick with it. And look, and I've done it myself. Like insurance is the worst. My car insurance, I haven't reviewed that for 3 or 4 years, and I know, so I'm paying a lazy tax on the car insurance. So it's, it happens all the time, and we're all susceptible to it. So, but what you'll find is that people that have been in business a long time will be stuck in, this is their way of doing things. And when you come into a business, when you're only starting something new, you've got all these fresh ideas, and a lot of people won't have thought of these fresh ideas that you've thought of or that you've implemented in your business. And they're not even all the time fresh ideas. Like, one of the things that I know I've, not even necessarily intentionally, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but encouraged in people is to get a CRM. Like, to me, so I run Salesforce as my CRM. I had a CRM before I had business cards. I had a CRM before I had a business phone number, like a website, all of that stuff, just because I inherently knew the value of a CRM. And it blows my mind that I'll talk to business owners that have been in business for a lot longer than what I have, and they don't have a CRM. I just don't get that. And I know, I'm thinking just straight off the top of my head of 4 different business owners that I've had this discussion with who have then gone and implemented a CRM after having the discussion. So, not that, look, am I taking credit for that? Probably, partly, but it's also, something that I've brought to the table, even as a startup business owner at that point, that to me made sense. I articulated it in such a way where they realized that it made sense, and they went and implemented that in their business to the benefit of their business. So great, happy days, everybody wins. And same thing the other way. There's a mountain of things. I can't even begin to start on this. The amount of value that I've gotten out of this. It sounds like this is an advertisement for District 32, but disclaimer, I'm not getting paid for any of this. But it's the amount of value that I've gotten out of those discussions is beyond belief. It just is, because you talk to these people that have been in business and been running successful businesses for a period of time. I mean, to me, even at the basic level, if you've been in business for 10 years, you're a successful business person. I mean, I don't know anybody that's been in business for 10 years who doesn't feel like that they've accomplished something just purely by being in business for 10 years, because there's so many. I did an interview with Lorraine Garvey last week, a week or two ago. Last week, I think. And one of the things that she mentioned to me was, because it was the start of, the business was only just over 3 years old. And she said to me, I'm now no longer a startup, because apparently, and I didn't even know this, but apparently startup is basically day 1 to 3 years old. And once you get to 3 years and 1 day, you're no longer a startup. So fine. But, from my point of view, I take pride in the fact that I've been able to build a business from nothing, absolutely zero, and in 3 years be in the position that I'm in. And I'm not a multi-bazillionaire. I don't have any real desire to ever be one, but just to grow the business to what I have in this time, and have been in business for 3 years, when so many businesses go out of business in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, the numbers on that are ridiculous. And so to be still around at this point is an achievement. So I think anybody that's been in business 5 years, 10 years, 15, it's an achievement just to have done that. So I can't even remember where I was going with this now. So the amount of value that I've been able to get just out of having conversations with people that have been in business for that period of time, and the changes that they've seen. They didn't have iPhones. They didn't have Facebook, wasn't around. So it wasn't like they were doing Facebook advertising when they started their business 15 years ago. All of these changes that they've gone through, all of the social media stuff, all of the smartphone stuff, the internet being what it is today versus what it was back then. All of those changes that they've been through, they've been able to navigate through those changes, and they're still here today. That's a fucking achievement. That's a lot of changes. And that's a fucking achievement to still be here today, 10 years, 15 years later. And so the amount of value that you can get from speaking to people that have been in business for that long and been through all that shit, like 08, 09, the whole meltdown of the world, the GFC, all of that stuff. Somebody's been in business 15 years, they've lived through all of that, their business life. And so the amount of value and perspective that you can get out of people from just having those conversations, and you don't even have to specifically sit, I mean, you can, there's probably value, a lot of value in it. I've never done it, but even as the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking that, shit, maybe I should go and actually intentionally sit down and do this, is actually speaking to a client, or to somebody at a networking event, or a business, it doesn't have to be through network, but at a business owner that's been through that, and just having the discussion around what was it like? How did you get business pre-internet, pre-Facebook ads and LinkedIn becoming what it is now? How did you navigate through the GFC when the whole world was melting down? Like, all of those sort of things, the amount of value that you can obtain out of business owners that have been through that level of shit, I really think I need to start doing that. Even now, I just think, look, I look at my business now and say, okay, I'm 3 years in. Yes, I've built it to a substantial business as it is today. I don't even feel like I've started. And I don't know if that's me I don't think it's fake, humble bullshit. I think it's more just me in my head saying, I don't want to ever get to the point where I feel like I've completely made it. Because then why do I get up tomorrow? What am I going to do tomorrow? I've made it. I don't need to do anything else. So I don't... Look, to the point where, and it's another one of those wanky things, I don't give myself the title of entrepreneur. Other people do. Other people have called me that 100 times. And not that there's anything wrong with the title, I just don't feel like I've earned it. I just don't. I look at successful people say that I've been successful, and I guess, as I said, I was just going through it. I'm here 3 years later. There's a level of success that comes with that, and I feel that, but I don't feel like I've... I look at guys like Aaron Sansoni, who I've been to some of his courses. He's got Sales Mastery and Empire Mastery are the two that I've been to, and a couple of the smaller ones. Empire Mastery in particular. If you've never done Sales Mastery, you'll get so much value out of that. It's ridiculous. Empire Mastery for me was more valuable because I've been through 500 sales seminars and trainings and what have you over my career. But I look at somebody like that, right, and who's worth $50 million or whatever he's worth, but he's built X amount of businesses. He's, absolutely amazing. And so I look at somebody like that as an entrepreneur. I look at myself and go, okay, I've got a couple of small businesses. I don't have any direct employees. I outsource a bunch of stuff. So I've got a team around me that I've built, which will be a completely other topic that I'll go through in another podcast. But I've got a team, I've got this, I've got that, but am I an entrepreneur? I just don't feel it. And I don't know where, I haven't got a North Star in my head of this is what I need to get to feel like an entrepreneur. I don't really care. It's not one of those things that I'm going to put any value on that title. If other people want to call me that and they want to look at me in that way, then great. I appreciate it. But, you've just got to look at what's of value to you and what's going to keep you motivated. For me, if I feel like I've made it, then it's going to be a motivation killer because I've made it. What else is there? So I think networking is the key. However you do it, whether it's through Facebook groups, whether you join Facebook groups, start Facebook groups, I would suggest joining existing ones if you're going to go down that path, because joining an existing Facebook group and adding value to that group or learning from that group as well going to be a lot more valuable to you when you're starting out than trying to start you're starting a business. My outlook, if you're starting a business and you're working less than 12 hours a day, then it's a hobby. That's my feeling on it right now. If you're doing it as a side hustle while you're working in another job, then yeah, you're not going to be working 12 hours a day. I get that. But if you're going all in, feet first, head first, whatever you want to call it, and you're not doing at least 12 hours a day, either number one, if you do grow the business, it's going to grow very, very slowly. There's actually I believe it's an Elon Musk quote that he talks about working 18 hours a day versus somebody that's working 8. And, you're going to accomplish in 2 months what it's going to take them, 6 or 8 or 12 months to accomplish. So you're going to be way ahead of the pack. And that it's not necessarily that's how I looked at it. I just kind of figured when you're building a business, you've got to work ridiculous hours if you want to make it successful. You just do. I don't work, hand on heart, I don't work as many hours today, 3 years in, as what I did in the first 18 months to 2 years. I don't. But those first 18 months to 2 years were mayhem. Absolute mayhem. Especially from month, say, 13 to month 24, month 30. They were where the biggest growth happened. And there was a couple of reasons for that, but that's where the biggest growth happened. That's when I was really putting in the hours. I was working an insane amount of time. Now I'm still working. Look, if I work less than 12 hours in a day, even now, it feels like I've had a half day. I haven't really done anything, right? But I was working 16 and 18 hours a day, like working that time. And that was basically my life. Work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. All my weekends were work. I've got my daughter every second weekend. That time was with her, but she goes to bed at 7 o'clock, 7:30 when she goes to bed. And I'm working until midnight. So you can put in the work. You need to put in the work. You can put in the work. You need to put in the work if you want to be successful with this. You need to do it. Because if you don't, you can be successful. It's just going to take you a lot longer. So, look, to wrap this up, my feeling on this is you're looking at getting that first client, family and friends. You'll get clients out of family and friends, depending on what you're selling, right? If you're selling industrial equipment, you may not be getting family and friends as clients, but they're a way to start. Cold calling or door knocking, whether it's over the phone or literally going door to door, it works. Absolutely, it works. And the other one's networking. Find yourself a networking group that you resonate with, that you feel is going to work for you, and run with that. So I think they're my biggest tips for today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak again soon. Cheers.